Hello, crafty friends! It's Alicia here with a project for Tailored Expressions. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make two rainbow cards, one with a little bit of a twist, using some of the new St. Patrick's Day products. The stars of today's cards are the new Rainbow Possibilities Layering Stencil, the St. Paddy's Day Clear Stamp Set with coordinating dies, and another Irish Blessing red rubber stamp. My color palette today, I will be making one card with a traditional rainbow, and I got out Cherry Pop, Candy Corn, Pineapple, Lime Zest, Cookie Monster, and Jelly Donut ink. For the second one, with a little bit of a twist, I will be making a monochromatic green rainbow using jalapeno ink. I also got out the coordinating blender brushes. For cardstock, I'm using Granny Smith, jalapeno, sugar cube, Oreo, and I also got out some TE vellum. For some embellishing, I got out the Gansai Tambi Starry Colors watercolor set, the Ranger artist brushes, and some Tailored Expressions gold glitter cardstock. To stamp my sentiments, I got out some of my favorite inks and TE tools, and all of these will be listed down in the description box. And to hold everything together, I got out a variety of adhesives. Let's get crafty! I'm going to get started with the stenciling, and for both cards I will be using the Rainbow of Possibilities layering stencil set and a piece of sugar cube cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. For this first one, which I'm going to show you how you can make a monochromatic rainbow using a single ink pad, I'm going to set up my stencils in a special way so that it's easy to flip back and forth between them. I am using the pre-printed squares and rectangles on the grid paper placemat to set everything up. Once my piece of sugar cube cardstock was in place, I took stencil number 2 and placed that on top, centered over again using that 6x6 square that is pre-printed. Then I'm going to leave that in place and bring in stencil number 1, and I'm going to line those up so that once they are taped down with those hinges, you'll see here how I can just flip-flop back and forth between them. The first stencil we'll use is number 2, which was on the bottom, and we're going to start with the smallest arc because that's the one that we want the lightest. So I brought in the jalapeno ink and green blending brush, and I got some ink on there. Now you will notice here that instead of using circular motions like normal for ink blending, I'm doing more of a wiping kind of back and forth from one edge into the center and then from the other edge back into the center. Now for these first two arcs, I am going to use a really light hand because you can't take ink away, but you can always add it. Now once I think I have a very light coverage on that first arc, I'm going to go ahead and flip up stencil 2 and bring in stencil number 1 and color in the second arc. For this one again, I'm going to use a really light hand, and every once in a while I'll pick up the stencil to see what it looks like compared to the arc before it. And here you'll see it's kind of about the same shade, so I'm going to flip stencil number 1 back down and add a little more ink. What you want to do is each arc, you want it just a little bit darker than the one before it. You'll keep up this process, flipping back and forth between the stencils and making each arc just a little bit darker. Now another good reason to use these kind of sweeping back and forth motions versus circles is it's going to be easier to stay within the arc and not accidentally get ink on the other ones. As I moved into the darker arcs, not only did I start adding more ink, but I did start using a little bit more pressure with the blending brush. And you'll see here at the end, once all the arcs are done, you have a beautiful monochromatic green rainbow. While I did mine green for St. Patrick's Day, you could use this with any ink color. Let me know in the comment section below what monochromatic rainbow you're going to try. Before I move on to the more traditional rainbow, I want to do the splattering so it has some time to dry. For this card, I'm using the number 903, which is yellow gold. To prep it, I put a few drops of water into the pan and moved it around and let it set for just a minute. Then for my splattering, I brought in a box to protect the rest of my work surface and a brush. This one is a number 6 from the paintbrush set. I mixed around the paint a little bit, got some on the brush, and then I tapped it around that stenciled piece. Once you like the amount of splattering, you'll want to set this to the side to let it dry completely. For this second card in the more traditional rainbow palette, I did make sure to clean my stencils well, and I got out all my inks. For this first one, I'm going to start with stencil number 1, which has the first, third, and fifth arcs. So I separated those inks so I would be sure to use the correct ones for the final piece. Since this second rainbow does use more than one color, when I was doing my ink blending, I protected the openings that I didn't yet want ink in with some pieces of removable labeling tape. Then I just used the first, third, and fifth inks to color in each of those arcs. So that was Cherry Pop, Pineapple, and Cookie Monster. After the first 3 colors were down, I brought in stencil number 2 and got that set up, and then I used the same process for the final 3 colors, which was candy corn, lime zest, and jelly donut. And here's the big reveal of the second rainbow. Let me know which one is your favorite down in that comment section below. It's time to work on the sentiments, so I brought in the first one, which is another Irish blessing, a piece of vellum that was 3 1/8 by 7 inches, and I will be stamping using the TE exclusive Teal Misty. I got the vellum set up in that lower right-hand corner, and I placed my stamp about halfway between the top and the bottom of this piece. I'm going to be heat embossing with detail gold embossing powder, so I prepped the vellum with the anti-static powder tool, and then I inked up the stamp twice with Versamark ink. To get a nice crisp impression, I used the Just Press tool, and keep in mind if you're going to heat emboss with vellum, you might want to pre-test the vellum you have and the heat tool just to make sure it doesn't get too hot or melt it. For me, I did make sure to heat up my tool for about 30 seconds, and then I quickly brought it into the vellum to melt the powder. I wanted that heat on the vellum as little as possible. And here's a look at the finished sign on that sentiment. For the second sentiment, I got out a scrap of sugar cube cardstock, and I chose the Happy St. Patty's Day sentiment from the St. Patty's Day stamp set. For the ink on this one, I'm using VersaFine Clair in Nocturne. I really like this one. It seems to be good for detailed stamps like sentiments. Now, because I have not yet used this stamp before, I did clean off some of those manufacturing oils with my fingers before inking it up and stamping it. I took this off camera with the coordinating die to cut it out, and while I was off camera, I used some of the other dies from the coordinating set to cut out 4 of the shamrocks. I cut 1 of the large and medium and 2 of the small. Off camera, I cut down my colorful rainbow to 5 by 3 3/4 and a black mat for it that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I also prepped a card base using Granny Smith cardstock, and I added a piece of white cardstock to the inside for the personal message. I got all of these pieces layered and adhered together, and then to finish this off, I brought back in the die cut sentiment and shamrocks. The sentiment and one of the smallest shamrocks, I did put some foam sticky strip on the back, and for that middle size, I'm going to add some liquid glue using the Precision Glue Press, and I'm going to place that on the inside for a little bonus decoration. Once that was in place and dried, I got my sentiment and my shamrocks put on the front. I kind of laid them out first to see where everything would go and look well, and once I did figure it out, I got them each put in place. For the pieces that had the foam sticky strips on the back, I did add some liquid glue just so I would have some wiggle time to get those placed nice and straight and just right. On that largest shamrock, since it does have the splits down the center, I'm only going to add liquid glue to half of the back of each petal. This way, once it's in place and dried, I can lift up the petal that's not glued down, and it just gives it a little bonus dimension. For the second card, I brought back in my monochromatic rainbow. I just love the shine on that splatter. And off camera, I cut one of the medium-sized shamrocks from jalapeno cardstock. For the sentiment on this one, I want it kind of toward the top center so that I can place the die cut shamrock there on the lower left. Because it is on vellum, I do want to do my best to hide the adhesive, so that's why this strip is a little extra long. I figured out where I wanted it to go, and then I folded down that top edge and added adhesive to the back. I then wrapped it around the bottom and did the same thing, for now just using some tape runner. Once that was in place, I added the shamrock to the front with some liquid glue. Off camera, I made a top folding jalapeno card base, and once again on the inside I added a sugar cube piece for the personal message, and for the added decoration in here, I die cut one of the shamrocks from gold glitter cardstock. All I had to do now was add adhesive to the back of my stenciled piece, and here are some close-up looks at the finished cards. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video. If you enjoyed the process, a thumbs up is appreciated. And if you're not already a subscriber, we do hope you'll click on the button below so you're the first to know about our latest videos. To find out more about the products I used today, you can check out the links in the description box below or visit the Tailored Expressions online store at tailoredexpressions.com.